you know,
can
I
bother
finally,
on.
I waited for all the election numbers to come in and did a table
Hmm.
on it, which was really took me a while to do.
Are you still being an analyst on the last election?
Well, no, because people, well, hey, the left and the left's media still likes to say, you know, what they had and what they didn't have, and this other crap. But here, you know, here
I could
I
say
did
the
it.
same for the right and the right's media, but okay.
Right. Um, yeah, but I don't really listen to the rights media. Is the problem. Um,
I got news for you. They're just as crazy, just in a different way.
let's see. Like, for example, I updated it. We still have a huge loss on the Democrat side of the votes. The Republicans, Romney actually did make a little more than McCain did. However, when you take that number, the little more that he did, um, it doesn't coincide with the electoral expansion and population growth, right? Because
So
we're normal.
so basically, you have more money, but it doesn't account for inflation.
Correct. So he had more votes, but the votes, technically speaking, to our population and turnout, were not as high as McCain. Even though the number itself was high, right? Because we had 4 years go by, we had an expansion electoral votes. Here's another thing that happened. We've had states lose electoral votes and other states gain electoral votes. Romney did score more votes in Texas than McCain did in Texas. And, well, what do you know? Texas went up in electoral votes, so Romney maintained
An average keel.
right, average kill to the population increase. Interesting enough, I was also watching trends of electoral politics. Did you know that Ohio will soon not even be a state in play? That its electoral votes are dropping each election.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons that Ohio's been over publicizing their statute of that for so long, because they're about to lose the ability to capitalize on it.
Yeah, essentially. What I've noticed is the red states got really red, and I'm wondering that did this recession cause those that would move, and I would say that um, typically if you're on welfare or something, you're receiving checks, it doesn't behoove you to move because you have to change out of state to another, you know, not even unemployment to another system like
I think the federal regulations require 18, or is it 24 months, something like that. I mean, it's over a year before you'd be in.
right. So you're not going to move states. So those that were looking for better jobs did. And it so happens that many of the red states, i.e., also Texas, and I know Florida's recovering a little bit too, um, that we've absorbed a lot of this population shift as well, which is kind of worrisome for the next elections because it's not likely that the populations will reset and move back. And those that stay, if they tended to vote blue, would probably make those states blue.
Well, and this is one of the real concerns, and it's one of the reasons I get so mad at the right for turning political issues into religious issues. Because they're not religious issues, they're political issues, and they should leave religion out the frickin' politics. And another thing, if the Democratic Party really had voted at their last convention to clearly separate themselves from religion and politics, it would have seriously made me consider figuring out how to reform the left into valid economic principles, as somebody who's more in the middle. But the problem you're talking about that gets fed there is we kind of have a federal Robin Hood going on right now, in which it doesn't matter that a state is incapable of sustaining itself. The Fed will just take from the states that more than sustain themselves to prop up the state that's failing economically, which is a dangerous precedent because it's not unconstitutional. I want to make that abundantly clear. Done within the laws of the United States and the powers of Congress, it is in no way, shape, or form unconstitutional to allocate funds that way. It just creates a cycle that never corrects itself because there's no incentive to. You'll always be able to rob from Peter to pay Paul. Well, at least for a while.
Well, yeah, and not only that, another interesting statistic that I found is that blue states are losing electoral votes in terms of population, and red states are increasing on the whole in number. So depending on how demographics work out, they are completely wrong on the Hispanic vote. My wife, being Hispanic, concurs. She thought that the news was just insane. My wife, by the way, is a staunch, like her father, her side over there, staunch Republicans. And let's see, the Latino vote, because I have the exact number. Sorry.
You know, I find it deplorable that in the United States we say this, the Christian vote, the white vote, the Latino vote, the black vote. I mean, it's
here's what I found so interesting. All right, on males, in general, Romney had a +4. Obama had a -4. So they switch. You're going to see these are inverse switches, except for a few exceptions. Okay, females, Romney had a +1. And I've calculated all the numbers from 2008 to 2012, right? Now, white males was a +5 for Romney, -6 for Obama, but a -2 for a general election, all right? So the male and females percentages are unchanged from general election to general election, 2008 to 2012. So white males decreased -2, but proportionately increased of that smaller pool of white male voters to a +5 of Romney and a -6 of Obama. White females were a -1% of the general election from 2008 to 2012. And of that smaller pool of voters, you have a +3 for Romney and a -4 for Obama. You have black males, 0 change from 2008 to 2012. Romney picks up 6. Get that. Obama loses none. So Obama had no net negative. On black males, black females, you have a +1 in the general election, so they increased in voter size, but the percentage changes were unchanged for both Romney and Obama. Latino males were only a +1 in the general election. That +1 went to Obama, 0 for Romney. No net loss on the Latino males. Here's what's interesting. Latino females, there is the same +1, and basically the +1 went to Obama, giving Obama a +8 and Romney a -7. Okay, so there was a shift in Latino females, but not an increase of total, Latino votes just showed up. They just shifted. Population pretty much almost unchanged, but shifted on the female side. White voters 18 to 29, -10. Unchanged general election, -10 for Obama, +7 for Romney. White voters 30 to 44. General election, -2. So a smaller voting pool, which gave Obama, of that smaller pool, a -3 and then +2 for Romney. Then you have, basically, to go quicker, white males, whites 45 to 64, +5 for Romney, but another negative. I mean, the white population basically was a total negative in terms of population show up for this election. On general side, total. It's interesting, like I said, the black vote. Romney did better amongst blacks, 18 to 29. He did better than Obama and blacks from 30 to 44, and did better than Obama on blacks from 45 to 64. He did nothing, no change in black votes 65 and older, and Obama lost a point on 65 and older. I found that extremely interesting. By the way, the black vote is unchanged in population from 2008 to 2012 on all of those categories. Then you have Latino votes. Get this, right? The Latino votes, Romney had a +4 from 18 to 29. Obama had a -2. There was a +1 increase from Latinos of 18 to 29. So the younger Latino generation is voting Republican. That's interesting. Latinos 30 years old to 44 was a shift. Unchanged in general election, but it went -8 for Romney, +8 to Obama. So a direct flip-flop from 2008 to 2012. Latino votes, 45 to 64. Aging Latinos here, kind of not quite retired yet. This population increased in +1 in general election and gave Obama a +10 and Romney a -9. But get this, now the inverse happens. Latinos retiring, 65 and up, was a -3 for Obama and a +5 for Romney.
Of course. I mean, how are you gonna, if you're gonna be counting on a retirement, you don't want your dollar to be worth less. Come on, think about this.
I was happy to find that my statistics held with religious votes. The Christians had a -1 general election turnout. Now it's hard to read these poll, these exit polls, because 2004 lumped many Christians together, and 2008 had them kind of lumped differently, and 2012 was different. So here's what I did.
Are you honestly doing these type of statistics complaining about how people are
No,
loved?
Christ, and then there's just basically the total of all Christian combined is a -4 on general election, a -4. And of those smaller pools, basically went Romney, which you could predict. Married with children were plus Romney. Now here's something they always say, the educated vote Democrat. Really? All right. Those with college, it was 51% to 47% Republican. Some college, 48% to 49% Democrat. No high school at all. 64% Democrat, 35% Republican. High school, 51 Democrat, 48 Republican. And so the college statistic, 51 Republican, 47 Democrat, whatever. So I just hate the elitist mentality. And I'm not just saying who's right or wrong. I just don't like the stupid stereotypes. Anyway, in Texas, there was a 11 point, I already went over that, but there was an 11.76% increase in electoral college, and it was pretty much like election night. Like I was saying, white Christians, still according to the numbers, did not show up to vote. Predominantly whites.
Yeah, no. You're reading these statistics all wrong. Allow me for a moment to put my liberal, politically correct hat on. Okay, let me read them with the liberal, politically correct glasses. Okay, reading these statistics that you've quoted through the liberal, politically correct glasses. White people are still racist. Black people are mature enough to vote for racist. And other people are confused. But it's okay, because there's time to educate them.
You know what's sad, though, is that my general election numbers are from 08 to 2012, which meant these white voters probably voted for Obama back in 08, but just decided not to show up for 2012. White Christians as well.
Honestly, I would say about 30% of the country. I would say it's as high as that, and it's hard to gauge this number because this isn't a poll number, but I would gauge a fourth to a third of the country last election was so confused they couldn't decide, and they just stayed home.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because the country was so divided, they basically just said they're going to stay home, and whatever it is in the morning, they'll deal with it.
And let me tell you, there is no increase of minorities. It was minorities will look larger if and I hate playing all this stupid stuff, but if Group A does not show up in force, it will make Group B, C, and D look bigger for the proportionate total that showed up. But it does not mean, on the whole, if everyone were to vote, that those groups B, C, and D are actually increasing.
Well, but that's the real problem you're getting at. For reasons beyond my comprehension, everybody does it.
So, and I also did research on all this, and my wife spearheads a lot of this stuff too, because she doesn't like she downplays a lot of this stuff on the Latino vote. But what is also interesting is Latinos are no longer producing in high quantity anymore. So the U.S. birth rates are now tanking. Wonderful. And this is kind of shit that we talked about, I don't know, last year, maybe more than a year ago. Remember we were talking about population. So that means if Latinos are not going to produce
short of another baby boomer event, I'm expecting the United States population to steadily decline over the 21st century.
That's scary. I'm actually for more. We need more. I mean, the thing of it is that, man, demographics, and let me tell you, when the population shrinks, and liberals are not going to like population shrinkage. It is not bowed in their favor. And I'll be honest with you too. I don't also want it extreme right, because you and I are libertarian, and I don't want.
Well, you're a libertarian. There's issues I have with the libertarians too. I'm a person in search of a political party that I actually agree with.
There's no party that I agree with either. But can we just say principally speaking, for crying out loud?
On certain principles, yes. Anyways, moving on.
But the thing of it is I also don't want to see an extreme in the other direction from a population fall off. But what this is telling us is that no, blacks are definitely did not increase in general election. Latinos went 1 point. That's it. And the birth rates within the United States are tanking. Which, remember what I said, that we were at 1.8 percent birth rate for the Latino population last, what was it, 2000 census, put us at 2.1. Well, now we're sucking wind now, because no one's having babies as much as we need to. And if we fall below 1.8 for a whole generation, you're looking at European type catastrophes in terms of demographics of who.
Well, no, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if in 20 years it's around 1.5 to 1.6.
So I'm just saying, people may like scratching in. I don't care. We're going to be if you have children, I worry about what is the demographic going to be. Who are going to be the people that are having?
Ben, I'm going to tell you another thing that's going to scare you that builds on top of that in terms of the population curve going down. There is an increasing percentage of the population who is literally there. It's not for some people. It's they don't want them, but I'm encountering an increasing number of the population who it's not they don't want kids because they don't want kids. It's they want nothing to do with it because they're convinced we've already gone off the rails. And they want to party till it all comes down, and they want to be dead before it happens. That's their life plan.
Yeah.
So I guarantee you a large percentage of those people are going to execute their plan well.
Are going to be old and in retirement when we start having effects of population falling. Economies, economically speaking, need bodies.
Yes. My hope, and this is a hope because mathematically it doesn't work out right now, is that the baby boomers are done before the population's shortcoming isn't able to cover. And that's right now that math doesn't work out because we're not expecting any of them to die young.
No. Yeah, right now, total number of forced increases. So like, what are you talking about, Mr.? That we're going to be a little bit, yes. I forget the year that it plateaus and then drastically contracts.
Big time. It's right now, depending on which statistics you look at, it's somewhere between 2040 and 2070.
Yeah, I can't remember, what was it, by, Lord, I had that great, where was it? Man, it was a great, yeah, here it is. It was a future, where are you? Oh no, world, and then, oh yeah, and then I want to see it by, yeah, 2015. No, but I want to, yeah, okay, so world population, right? Watch this. By 2050, remember, it was like smaller. Yep. See the zero, there's a thing called population pyramid. They do an okay job. There was a, essentially, the plateaus, but your birth rates are shrinking devastatingly. Devastating, like 0 to 4 is just massively much smaller than what you would see in 2050.
Well, but we're making the assumption of a static model. You notice that every time I say barring another baby boomer event, there are several catastrophes like that could befall the world that would result in.
Well, you could also have, I mean, it's a static. Actually, and I don't like statics, but we could have another baby boom from here into whatever, whatever causes it.
Well, no, and the reality is the world stage is primed for several events like what led to the baby boomer event. That can be created from several things. And the stage is set for more than one of those things to happen at some point in the next 20 years. So the reality is we could have another baby boomer in the early 21st century, which would cause another spike. I mean, the predictions for world population in the next 50 years is shrinking to as little as 4 billion and exceeding 10 billion. I mean, that it can go either way.
Yeah, I'm just saying that our birth rates are, and that's why you see on a pyramid, the bubble shifts northward, right, or it goes up, and the base shrinks and slowly becoming like the inverse effect, and that's the problem. And as we shrink, you will feel the economic effects. It's not fun, and suffice it to say, ideas become in favor of the groups that are having children versus the others, And what is my argument in the end? That, hey, the more population you have, you tend to have a more plethora of ideas that combat each other. The smaller the pool, you tend to have more focused groups of ideology that begin to take over and less combative nature, essentially in terms of the plate size of ideas and those contributing into it. So just something to think about.
Well, no, I mean, that's been my personal philosophy for most of my adult life. Humanity's greatest strength and weakness is its diversity.
Yeah. So we can get off politics. It's just my thing. We haven't had a show in forever.
Oh yeah, I kind of figured this was going to be a babble show. We're just going to go wherever the currents take us.
Yeah.